Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Gospel Tech Podcast. My name is Nathan Sutherland, and this podcast is dedicated to helping families love God and use tech. Today, we are starting off the new year. Happy 2026, everyone. With the answer to a question I've been asked multiple times recently, which is some version of, how did you start this ministry? And I think that's a fascinating question because I love where it's coming from. Most of the people who are asking this are in some kind of a life transition. They're looking at leaving their current position, maybe starting a new one, or they feel just a heavy conviction that they need to do something specifically ministerial. They want to minister to others either directly through the church or through some kind of parachurch organization, be that a local nonprofit or a food bank or a ministry to youth or something like that. But they just don't know how to discern it. And one individual went so far, it was after a talk, and he's like, you should just document how you process your ministry, because that would be really helpful to those of us that are working these jobs and feeling convicted about going somewhere else. And frankly, I don't even know what that means. I don't know how it works, but I do know that I've answered this question enough times that I thought we could put it down a little bit as we look to 2026, because all of us are setting these 2026 New Year's resolutions in some ways. And I'm not saying this in a cynical way. I know a lot of times we love to just dog on New Year's resolutions because none of us ever keep them. But I actually think the intent is very lovely. I think we should do it more often than once a year. But to take reflective time to look at our last year and say, what went well? Where did 2025 go in a way that I am at peace and I'm content, and I know that I was faithful to where the Lord placed me, even if it was hard, even if it didn't end up the way I wanted. I know I did the right thing and I was faithful in that. And then where are there areas where I'm oof, that I can't spend another year doing that. And this is true. So in my own life, this is true in my personal walk with the Lord. Where was I faithful to pursue the Lord first? And where did I just get busy because important stuff was happening around me? And I go, you know what? I should wake up 20 minutes earlier, but I already have to get up at 5. So I just won't. And I'm not shaming anyone else, because I'm saying I did that this year, and I go, you know what? That's not who I want to be. So either the thing that made me wake up at 5 needs to change, or I need a rhythm and a cadence where that becomes sustainable. Because I'm not talking about hero efforts and waking up at 4:30 and burning yourself out and getting sick and not sleeping through your next appointment. I'm talking about making relationship with the Lord a priority. That's an area for reflection. So first is going to be my spiritual walk. Then my relationship with Anna. Great, we did some amazing things. November was awesome. But as you've probably heard on this podcast, 8 talks, 10 days was the busy stretch of that month. And that was too much. And I can tell because my spiritual walk fell off a cliff because I was just too fatigued and too busy. And then my relationship with Anna fell off a cliff. We very quickly became roommates where we were high-fiving in and out of the house as I would, swap. And I'm still being an active parent, still being an active member of this household, still doing everything I can, but everything I can. That was too busy. There are certain things I can't do because 8 talks in 10 days is too many. 2 of them not being one is on the other side of the state and the other one was in a different state. And so that was too much. So I reflect and go, you know what? That was such a blessing to have work. And we have prayed so long to have a schedule that was that busy. And that was the wrong way to do it. Something needs to change. I don't know what. Maybe you still do 8 talks in 10 days, but we have a better support team around it so that I'm not carrying so much burden and Anna's not left high and dry. Maybe. But when we talk about reflecting on this year, that's the kind of stuff we're reflecting on. It's not a full-scale baby in bathwater situation where we go, it didn't work in one area, therefore it won't work in any areas. We're prayerfully reflecting and saying, Lord, am I glorifying you first with my relationship with you, then with my top priorities, my wife, and then my kids. One of my children, all of my children have now had birthdays. One of them was asked, what do you want from this next year? And the answer was more family board games and Dad to not be gone so much, which I just need you to know that hits like a ton of bricks. That's not a lot of fun to hear. And I, again, as intentional as I can be, been prayerful about that. Now, sometimes kids are just yeah, but I can never have enough of a parent. Okay, maybe that's what it is. But I got to pray into that, folks. That is intentional, and that absolutely weighs on me. There is a season of children at home, and they are a massive priority. We are called to raise up our children in the way they should go, and guess what? We have a hard time doing that when we're not here. So I share that with you because this is actively what I'm doing. And so my heart today is to share then with you a little bit of, well, what I've been getting asked about. How did you pick ministry? How do you know? I would actually extend it from, because people think, well, once I know the Lord has called me into this, then it'll all be clear. No. If you don't get anything else out of this podcast, once you pick to follow the Lord's lead, He only gives you so much view down the road. Most of that very gracious, by the way, because we would take one ticket to not Nineveh if we saw where we were going. But He just gives us the next stop, and then He will go dead silent and effectively just leave that next step echoing in your brain until you are humble enough to do it. The last one though, okay, so Anna, kids, and then ministry after that. So local ministries, the ones that don't go on the YouTubes or get you a podcast, then certainly like the branded ministries, like Gospel Tech is a thing, and we are building that ministry out with a very specific purpose of helping families raise kids who love God and use tech. Like that's, and then Flint and Iron, the public side, that's also still growing. Like that's great. And those are not priorities. Like you heard the top priorities. I only do those because I want to be faithful in the top three. I want to follow the Lord in all that I do and love my wife and serve and love my kids. Like then I'm going to work a job, and the current job I work at, well, let's talk about that. Why am I working this current job? So for those of you who don't know a little bit of my backstory, I was a middle school teacher. I taught for a decade. It was a job I promised myself I would never do. In seventh grade math, actually, I looked around and was like, teaching cannot possibly be worth it. I will never be a teacher. Flash forward, I get my master's degree in education and I begin teaching middle school. Yes, I hear all the irony. I think the Lord had a good chortle at that. The long and short of it was I was hungry for work that involved people. Wasn't even sure I liked kids at this point because I didn't do a lot of volunteering in college. By the way, if you're a college student, please volunteer. Get out there, serve at the retirement community, serve in your local schools, join a Young Life Club, like do something, run a Bible study, like get involved because those little volunteering opportunities give you a lot of life experience. I hung out with the exact same group of friends and they were lovely people, but like we were pretty sequestered from the rest of the world. We were a very tight-knit group of friends, and then I played video games. And like between those two, I didn't get a lot of the life experience that a lot of people should have by the time they graduate college. What I would say though is the opportunities were there, and the school was not to blame for me showing up a bit of a recluse. So I went into the student teaching assuming I was going to teach middle school to know if I wanted to do high school or elementary, and day 2, 3, like well within the first week, I was like, oh no, like junior hires, those are my people. Like they're old enough to understand a joke, but they're young enough to still like be super engaged and care about their future and choices and not feel completely burned out and cynical about life. I would say since the introduction of like social media and the internet, you get a lot more cynical junior hires now who just have seen a lot and been through a lot, and they're not so quick to trust and so quick to dream, unless it's dreaming about being better than everyone else. Anyway, I digress. That being said, I loved junior high. So I started teaching. I taught for a decade, and in that process began to feel this weight. It's the only word I can use to describe it. I, in teaching 8th grade language arts, loved teaching and had a heavy heart for kids coming from broken situations, and loved the situation where I could watch education, specifically the ability to read and write, the ability to understand other people's thoughts, and to clearly communicate your own, to watch that break down walls within a child of a kid coming in being like, I don't think I can succeed because I haven't succeeded for years, and this is just who I am. I am a failure because I have failed. And then to watch them go, oh, but like I could do that. Like I don't do it well, but I can do it. I can read. I can write. I had a creative idea. Like I can build on this, and to watch them do hard things poorly is amazing because they're trying. Because your other option is what I like to call active non-learning, where they just show up and like, I can't do it, so I won't do it. Because then no one will know I can't do it because I refuse, and you just kind of assume I can and that I'm too cool for school. And to watch those kids actually earnestly try. And one of my favorite stories on that, there's a young man who showed up like arms crossed. This is stupid. When am I ever going to use this? Like verbalizing this out loud. Front row of class. I got him at semester. I don't actually even know why. My understanding is, and I had kind of had this agreement with the school counselors, like, yeah, you give me your just toughest nuts. Like, just give them to me, because my job is not to crack them. My job is to see if you can just like get them a little bit engaged. Kids like this were getting suspended a lot, and that's basically just a 5-day unsupervised vacation, which is a terrible decision for most of these students. So unless they're like breaking a law or physically unsafe to people around them, I tried to keep them around. And so, negative Norton over here, and I started to have some conversations. Turns out he's in 8th grade. He reads at a high 3rd grade, a low 4th grade level, but is an amazing science and math student. So he put all of his effort into science and math and just would completely shut down in English because, well, he's a sharp kid, but he doesn't want his friends to know that he can't read most of the stuff that they're reading. And we're talking like textbook stuff. Like he can't get through a lot of that content, including his science and math stuff. So he's having a lot of support to help him read that other content, but he just won't engage in English until through support, amazing school counselors, engaged parents. Dad agreed to read to him every night, and the son agreed to let that happen. So just picture yourself as like an 8th grader letting your father read you every night. And he's not reading storybooks. He was reading like math and science books our school librarian helped us pick out, and that the young man agreed to, like, yeah, that'd be interesting. Oh, I'd like to know more about that. But again, he can't engage it because his brain is sharp enough, but his reading skills aren't up to snuff. And so Dad read to him for the second half of the year. And he almost got to 8th grade. Like they took the 8th grade test for Washington State at the end of the year, and he missed it by 2 questions. He missed a passing score, which you might be like, he still failed. Like, yeah, but he didn't because he was reading at an almost 3rd grade level, and he gained nearly 4 years of reading that 1 year. Not because I was an amazing teacher or because anyone did anything magical, but because a loving staff was able to get a young man who had quit on himself to at least try doing something hard and doing it poorly. And he read poorly for a long time. And then guess what? He went on to 9th grade and 10th grade and 11th grade and 12th grade, and he graduated from Puyallup High School, and he went on to college and didn't go as an English major. He went as a science math major and went on to engineering. Like, that's fine. The point isn't that reading somehow made him good. The point is this young man believed lies about himself, and specifically about his value. And I was passionate as a teacher about seeing that happen. And then my passion turned to, wait a minute, I have some kids that are the smartest kids I've ever met, and they are vile human beings. I very quickly realized that the problem with Hitler wasn't that he needed more German classes. The problem with Hitler was he was quite bright and he was evil. Something was wrong with his heart. And this came after the Lord graciously removed video games, and I started volunteering with Young Life, and I started being able to share the gospel and watch these young people come up with questions that like they don't know the answers to, and they're not necessarily looking for a singular answer. They just have questions like, do I matter? Am I damaged goods? How could a good God let bad things happen? Namely, these things that have happened in my life. Like, I have hurt and I have questions, and they just want to be around people who care. And I realized, oh man, like I love having office hours, and I love being in the classroom, and I love being on the front lines of being able to ask a kid if he or she is doing okay, or celebrating that he or she is. Like, love that. And ask anyone who's had me as a teacher. My stories would get in the way of the class content. Like, I have a passion about seeing these big questions asked well, and we needed to process that. So that's when I said I had this weight for kids, and then the weight turned into, oh man, I have a weight that I feel a pressure to share the gospel and to share these life challenges beyond the walls and the 35 kids I get per class for 6 periods a day, right? I get to talk to 180 kids in a day. I want to talk to more. Like I just have this weight, and we didn't know what that looked like. And I'm not a serial entrepreneur. I'm very happy showing up for work 10 months a year as a teacher and then taking a full summer. Like most teachers pack their summers. No, sir. I take a full summer off. Like I will forget how to do my job. I'm going to take this time off so well. Just really Sabbathing, right? Just so biblical of me. But I had this weight. I describe it as this conviction that I can't not do this next step, whatever it is. Again, no brand name, no website, no idea for content. Anna and I do it for 3 years part-time. I part-time teach 2017, 18 to 19. And then in 19, June 2019, step out of the classroom, full-time nonprofit. Then the world shuts down. And when you think you've prayed into what you're supposed to do, and then the world shuts down, you start to question whether you followed the directions right. And I just will tell you, we had such prayerful support. We had very wise counselors who were not impressed by me or intimidated by hard decisions and words. Very wise people who were willing to pray with us and for us, to talk us through this process. And basically it was between Young Life, it was between teaching, it was between going completely new ministry. and prayerfully convicted that while all three were good, and I wanted to do all three, I was physically breaking down and emotionally breaking down, doing all three, and that I had to step away and give full-time investment to talking to young people about their choices and their potential and their purpose. And Flint and Irons was born, and we started running with that, and immediately Gospel Tech was spun off of it, where we go, man, we need for church environments the space to specifically talk about technology and the gospel, stemming from my testimony that technology was really negative in the way I was using it. I compulsively used video games to cover a multitude of issues that I just wasn't willing to give it to the Lord. And I go, no, I don't need you, Lord, because I can manage it as long as I have my video game. So then I won't be angry, and I won't be depressed, and I won't be anxious, and I won't lust, because I'll be so distracted with these video games. I can just fill all of these problems with this one thing. And the Lord goes, okay, give me that one thing. Now trust me. Now am I better? Parents, as we strive to raise kids who love God and use tech, it's intimidating to look at this next stage of life and think about what academics may look like for them. When you're thinking about college, consider George Fox University for your children because of three things. First, it's going to give you a more intimate, known environment where they have a focus on being known personally, academically, and spiritually. Your child will grow in their faith. 93% of undergrad students at George Fox last year, through the 2025 academic year, said that being at George Fox has helped them grow in their relationship with Jesus. We also want them to grow academically, which means being a part of a university with rigorous academic standards and opportunities to be engaged. They have a nationally recognized engineering, nursing, and education programs, as well as chances to study abroad here within the U.S. and then internationally. And finally, personally, to be part of a vibrant campus atmosphere where you can play intramural sports or part of their NCAA Division III athletic programs with 23 sports available. The goal here is to go to a place that's going to support your goals, not try to make you support theirs. To have that goal be to raise you up to be all God's called you to be, and to truly equip your young person with in my case, my sons or my daughter, to love God, and then from their love of God to go wherever God has called them. And that includes being equipped with a degree that'll help them do that, to be missionally equipped to love and serve others, to lead where God has planted them, and to know the gospel for themselves, to be able to share it with others. So George Fox University is an amazing resource for our kids, for our community here in the Northwest, and for anyone who's looking to raise up a young person who can love God and from that, love others. And so the verse I want to share with this, and I actually had intended to share this at the beginning, I just went for a tear. When we talk about this, the verses that I've been talking about are Proverbs 3, 5 through 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. That sounds great, and no one disagrees with that until they're told to step out of their day job with a new child on the way. Hadley was just born before we started full-time ministry. So she had just been born. We have now 3 kids and a 3-month-old. And I go, great, I just gave up my full-time paying job. Now let's start a nonprofit. And while that is laughable, I will say that conviction did not leave us, and it didn't leave the board, and it didn't leave Anna. The conviction that this ministry is going to equip and encourage kids in a way that needs to happen in a season that it's not currently being done. And we've just kept trying to step into that gap of like, where are people not being met? Not what's working, what's selling, what sounds exciting, but like, where does this weight of like, we can't not challenge young people that little choices matter and that everyone's got potential and that it's never too late to be great. Maybe it's assemblies, maybe it's small groups, maybe it's online curriculum. I don't know. But like, there's a message and it keeps hitting and kids keep coming. I was able to do a talk at a local public school, and there was a kid who was a selective mute. Like, this is second talk I've ever given. Selective mute kid for a year goes to the counselor and says, I want to help kids who've experienced trauma. Like, that is not me. That is I hold on to that little nugget like I treasure up so many things in my heart to remember in a dark day, like the Lord has used this in ways that I never intended because we are faithfully following. And that is what I would challenge you when we talk about, how do you know if this is the ministry of this thing? You don't. You know whether your heart is being faithful in doing it. And if it's scary, and if it doesn't make a lot of sense, I'm going to say you're 2/3 there. The third is to pray into that with some wise counsel and to have that contentment, to have that sense of peace. And I would say now that we're into it, so 2019, we're coming on 7 years, it hasn't gotten any easier because the opportunities continue to grow. I just told you about November, and November was done wrong. That was not the right way to do it. I think that what I did there is what I did at the very beginning. Once I had a direction, I go, great, Lord, I'm going to do this for you. And I ran way out in front of what he was telling me to do. And I worked so hard because I just wanted to make this work for my wife and for the Lord and for myself. I wanted to show people I wasn't quitting my job because people keep going, oh, what are you going to do? And I would just stare at them like a cow looking at a new gate and go, I don't actually know. Like, that's a terrifying question. I don't know. I quit my good paying job for a nonprofit and I don't even really like entrepreneurial work. Like, it doesn't energize me. That's not what I dream about at night, is how to start another new ministry or business. I mean, I do, but it petrifies me. There's no enthusiasm in that. That's when I wake up at 3 a.m. My encouragement to you is to, if you're at the brink of ministry, either just jumping into it or thinking about it. If you are feeling dissatisfied in the work you're currently in, first recognize that if you faithfully followed the Lord to this work, the Lord's got you in this work. Stay put. And if you feel a discontentment, holy discontentment is not my phrase. I actually don't remember who used that phrase, but that was a term I used a lot at the beginning. A holy discontentment, this inability to not do this hard thing, pray into that. And if you're married, your spouse had better have a conviction about that as well. And it better not be antithetical to what you feel convicted to do. Do not do it over the body of your family. Do not do it over the life and the love of your marriage. Do not do it over your call to be a faithful son or daughter of the Lord. There is no mountain worth climbing. There is no Instagram following worth building. There is no amount of gospel worth sharing that costs you your soul. So make sure that you are well and right and faithful, and then trust the Lord to be good in that, because he is. And as you look at 2026, take an assessment of your walk with the Lord, of your spouse if you're married, or your singleness if you're not, of your children if you've got them, of your work and ministry where the Lord has planted you, and simply ask, what were you faithful in? What do you need to add or remove this next year? Where do you need to make some changes to be able to faithfully follow the Lord? And if part of that is starting something new, then pray into that. Build yourself some prayerful friends and supporters, some wise counselors who can speak some hard truths to you, that maybe doing all three things is too much and you're aiming for the umbrella and you need to aim for the funnel, and to be faithful to fish from the boat the Lord's put you in. So I hope that's encouraging to you. I hope you have an amazing start to 2026. I'm praying for you and with you, and I look forward to hearing how the Lord works in your heart and life. Feel free to reach out to me, Nathan@gospeltech.net, or at LoveGodUseTech on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And join us next week as we continue this conversation about how we can raise kids who love God and use tech. Talk to you then.